This is the It's Time to Refresh podcast with Brad Riffresh, the podcast about life, music, traveling, shit, literal shit that is, and weird and wacky stories with Brad and a range of guests from the planet Earth. Feel free to share the pod with your pals, your mom, your neighbor's dog, or even your shrink. It's all fun. You can follow our Facebook group called It's Time to Refresh Community, or It's Time to Refresh on Instagram. Write into the pod, ask questions, and share your stories. Enjoy the pod.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
Back once again with another episode. This is episode 40 of the It's Time to Refresh podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe because we've just hit 1,000 subscribers yesterday. So, big achievement in such a small window of time, I think. Would you say 1,000? 1,000's not bad, is it? Well, anyways, we've got a little bit of progression, so at least you know you're going to get one person watching the podcast there. On today's episode, we've got Danny Gibson. You've used a few aliases as well, haven't you? Reactive DJs as well.
B-side as well.
B-side, yeah. Producer and DJ from, I'm not even going to, where are you from?
Rosendale.
I'm in Rosendale. I wouldn't have even, I'm right here today and I've used the sat-nav and everything. I don't even know where I am. I thought it was in Bury, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's, as I say, like, always rated your work from when I first met you. And then followed you as you've moved on to do hard house as well, and I know you still keep your toe in the bounce stuff and that as well. But it's one of them people. I've said off pod as well. I want to get more producers on the podcast so we can get talking and about tracks, production, stuff like that, and sort of hear it from a producer's side. Because as I say, I've had promoters on, I've had DJs, I've had MCs, I've had a couple of producers, but we haven't really touched into it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll get your story in that. But first, how have you been? How are you doing?
Good, yeah. Busy, kids, work, the usual stuff.
Yeah, you're saying that you've got a good consistent thing of putting tracks out as well. Like
yeah, I mean, what I tend to do is I'll hit it hard for a few weeks. I'd like to get like a bit of a catalogue of tracks going, that I can release over the year, really. Rather than trying to do one every week and stuff like that. So usually I have like 3 or 4 tracks built up that I can put out, on socials or.
Well, I've seen that you've obviously you released bits with me before, but like last year you're doing the EPs for Cheeky Tracks?
Yeah, I think the first one was in 2020. I signed to Cheeky Tracks. I think it was just before lockdown. Right. The first one was Mint Beat. It was like a remix bootleg of Welcome to Tomorrow, Miss Peppermint. Yeah,
and so before we'll get into your story from the beginning. What made you do the changeover to hard house? Because you were doing a lot of stuff under the name B-side.
Yeah, that was with Relay Records, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then you were doing like a bouncy bits as well as Gibby.
Yeah.
So what was the because it was like a changeover almost.
Yeah, it was just pretty stunning. I mean, I've always been into hard house. I've listened to hard house before I listened to bounce music. Yeah. I like the grittiness of hard house, and there's a lot of raw elements in the music which I enjoy. Mm-hmm. I think it was just I fancied a change, to be honest with you. I first started learning to produce like 2006, just making bounce. I just like the direction that hard house is going as well. It's going back to a lot of the slow, chunkier stuff as well, which I've always been into. Like
the untidy stuff is fucking really good as well. What I was going to say to you is like we've got a similar taste in music when it comes to it. I'm a big fan of like you can tell when you listen to your. I'm just assuming your taste in music here, but you can tell when you listen to your tracks. You've took a lot of late 90s sort of Dutch house type stuff with the riff styles that you do, and even like the percussive patterns. When you hear some of your stuff, I'm thinking, I can see he's pulled that sort of from like a Dutch house record or something.
I do quite a lot of like sampling one shots, out of some old tracks, really. Even just like one shot percussions and stuff like that, and chuck it into it, just gives it a nice groove.
See, but am I right in thinking that you're into your Dutch stuff? I'm sure you've done your Dutch mix a while back.
Yeah, I did a Dutch mix a few years ago. I've always been into the Dutch stuff like clubheads and stuff like that.
Yeah, so as I say, you can tell that on your hard house stuff from a mile back. Even when you've got like sometimes you do have them rolling bass lines, you know, the skippy bass lines in hard house. But even like what you've laid it with, it's like it's been pulled from that. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, so we'll sort of get into your story then. So where did it all start for you? Were you DJ Gibby all along, or?
Yeah, it was. Well, I didn't really get a choice for that really, because it was my nickname at high school, so it kind of just stuck really.
So where does music come into everything? Way back when?
I mean, obviously when I was younger, I wasn't even into dance music straight away. I was into like pop punk and stuff like that, like Blink-182 and.
We have got a similar taste in music as well.
Yeah, I still listen to that quite regularly, to be honest with you.
It's my gym music, mate. Like when I go to the gym, it's like Sum 41, Blink-182, My Chemical Romance, The Offspring.
Yeah, I listen to all that kind of stuff at work all day, to be honest with you. So.
Class, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the first like dance track that I remember getting into originally was Castles in the Sky.
Right.
You know, when I heard it on the TV and all my friends were, that we all heard it, thought, fucking hell, what's that?
Class.
You know, and start listening to that just on the TV channels, really. You know.
So what year was it? Like what, 2002, something like that?
Probably about 2000. About 2001 maybe, something like that.
I can't remember when it originally came out.
Like the Eurotrance stuff, you know, Alice DJ and stuff that as a kid, you know, we enjoyed listening to that.
Class. I've always said this, and I've said it on loads of episodes as well, that era is peak era for me. I know times change, and like you can go on a dance floor now and that stuff might not work as well as it did, but like for
it's
me...
It's just the golden era of dance music though, isn't it? Really?
I think for our generation as well, it's like... What you hear tunes now that come out now, and you can tell that what they've grew up on. Do you know what I mean? Like when you hear it, it's like, oh yeah, you can tell you're into.
I mean, it's like that. So then when I got to high school, the first year of high school, with 2001. Obviously, all the kids around here, you know, the most you had your people who listen to your rock music, or you had people that are into bounce or your dance music. Everyone was into that happy hardcore, bonkers CDs and stuff like that. So that's the first where I, religiously started following some kind of form of dance music was happy hardcore.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, like what year were you in high school? Like
2001 I started.
Right. So so you'd have got like the back end of like the real like the bonkers days.
Yeah. So I mean, it was we used to have the copied CDs and stuff like that, like a rarity if we seen an actual bonkers CD. Then so we used to see them on market, like yes, I've got a bonkers CD.
Class. So what style of the happy hardcore were you into?
Like Forsten styles, the more melodic and euphoric. Definitely, yeah.
Class. We were talking off pod, but it's like. They were one of them tracks as well. If you listen to them back, all the bass in their kick was in their kick drums, because they used to have like the offbeat and the offbeat was just literally a mid range sort of. They
were like tuned kicks, weren't they? So it was part of the track, weren't it?
Class. So you're in secondary school and you're listening to that. So what is everyone on the happy hardcore vibe?
Most people, yeah. And then I think it was my friend Danton who. He brought it was a Pay CD. I think it was volume 29 was the first Pay CD that I listened to, and he brought this into school. We used to have our CD walking in our blazer pocket, earphones up our sleeves. Yeah. And I think it was London Fiesta La La that was on it. That was the first bounce tune I thought I listened to this. I thought, fucking hell, what's that? The donk sound. Yeah. And that's where I started looking into it a little bit more. Found some more Pay CDs. Class. But then there was I don't know if you remember, on Sky TV, there used to be a TV channel back then called Rapture TV. I don't know if you were, and it used to have live recordings of nightclubs, like live sets and stuff like that. And me and my friend Joe Swifty was staying up one night watching on it. It was on Savage, it were. Right. I can't remember what the event were. It was Emporium or something like that, maybe, I think. I can't remember.
Right. I've went back and watched these, by the way, because they're actually available online. Was it not... I'm gonna fucking Slinky.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was
Slinky at where's it? Not the Opera House. Slinky.
I can't remember where it were now.
It's somewhere in.
It's in the Midlands, isn't it?
No, I think he's not southeast or something. I thought it was somewhere like that. Anyways, I'm probably wrong, but I have watched the videos and there's like interviews with them, and then there's the actual sets and everything.
So she played a track. Obviously at the time I didn't know what they were, but it was like really hard, fast. It had that sound again to it. The donk sound. Yeah. It was Tom's Project. Party Time, I think it was.
Costume.
absolutely unreal. And that's, you know, again, that's where I started looking into hard house and stuff like that from that age, from about 11-year-old.
She's like, did you say it was Pin-Up? You said, yeah.
No, Anne Savage.
Anne Savage. Well, even Anne Savage as well. She's always played the bouncier end of hard house, like very energetic, and people like that. They're the ones I listen to. Like, if I'm feeling a day where I'm just like, I just fancy something fast, and because I listen to a lot of music, and like when we listen to like bounce music, and I always sort of slower tempo stuff. But when I just fancy something fast, my go-tos are, say, like an Anne Savage mix, Lisa Pin-Up, Wayne Johnson.
Yeah, he made some good tracks actually.
Even the Bounce Factory boys, Jamie and Justin, they put out some things, and I always find myself going to them, and they've just got so much energy, but it's like the cross between what I like. So it's like the big bouncy bass lines, but like they've got the Hoovers and the Acids, and I love that sound.
Yeah, it's good.
So sort of when you've watched this, what's been your reaction to it? Have you tried to go and get the CD, the vinyl, the CD, or anything?
Because I tried to look for the CDs, because obviously at this point I wasn't, you know, I had no interest in DJing or anything like that. It was just to listen to, really. I used to copy the CDs at school and tape them and stuff like that, and sell them on at school to make a little bit of money, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But just started going to like market stores and stuff like that, you know, to get the CDs.
Was the markets locally for it?
Yeah, there was one in Accrington, Custard Cube. It's still a shop actually in town, to be fair. But they had all the pay CDs. They had the
legit or copies.
Yeah, they were copies.
Copies. Yeah. It just reminds me of because our closest market at the time, when I was sort of younger, looking for CDs, we used to have to go at a place called Silith. It's on the coast, and it's like 45 minutes away from me.
Right.
So you knew someone had been to Silith and there was a new CD floating around, you know what I mean? It was one of them. There was no like local market where there was like dance CDs, do you know what I mean? There was like little record shops and that, but they would only sell a full CD packs. You wouldn't get like a Wig and P volume, for instance. So you've went and got these CDs and you're selling them and stuff like that. What point is it become, because everyone, I don't care what anyone says, anyone I've seen, it becomes a fascination, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, definitely. It takes over.
It goes from, you listen to it and it's like, oh, this is good, and then you're showing your mates it and that, and then you become obsessed. When does the obsession come in?
My dad used to do a bit of DJing himself, not like club DJing. He used to just do a bit of mobile DJing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, so he had all this equipment always set up in the front, you know, to practice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I used to go. That's where I used to play the CDs on at first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's when I started playing around with the knobs on the mixer and stuff like that. And that's when it started getting obsessive. I thought, you know, I could probably try and give this a go, to be honest with you.
Did you know how it worked?
Not really, no. You know, back then, obviously, no tutorials on YouTube or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
But did you know, like, sort of what DJs were doing? So did you know to get from one tune to the other?
Not at the time, no.
Beats and bars.
It was just literally like just, you know, moving the faders and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Everyone starts out like that. I said that on previous podcasts. I think everyone just is intrigued to how it works.
Yeah, definitely.
They'll give it a go and then sort of go from there. But as I say, like, that's how you've discovered of the tinkering, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So you're tinkering and what are the cogs turning of how it's.
I'm trying to process how it works, and then obviously we started talking to a few people at school about, you know, saying I'm messing around, you know, doing this and that, and there was a lad that I went to school with, Ryan Clifford, again still DJs now, one of the Habit DJs, and he already had a pair of turntables, you know, vinyls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting a bit more intrigued into it, and I thought, you know, I could probably try and give this a do. So I started pestering my dad for fucking ages to get me a pair of decks, you know, for Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah. Not cheap though, are they? Like, I remember asking my mum for them and she'd be like, fucking, I remember we used to get, I didn't know where to buy them from, and can you remember the hard to find record shop?
Yeah.
They used to send you magazines out, so I'd be looking for them, all these ones, whatever, and then there'd be like loads of random shit. I used to mail order new vinyl off there as well. And I remember I was asking my mum for them. She was like, "Have you seen the price of these? You'll be bored of them after one, like, or a day." And I'm like, "No, I've got my heart set on this."
Yeah, my dad, my mum and my dad both always said, I just thought it was going to be a phase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they first bought them.
Yeah. But so you've pestered him for the decks, and then as he give in, how long did it take for him to give in?
Not long, to be honest with you. I think it was Christmas 2001, maybe 2002. I can't quite remember. Who were a pair of Stanton straight 30s direct drive turntables for my first pair, which I was pretty fortunate really, because a lot of the lads had belt drives and stuff like that.
Yeah. They're the ones I've got now, by the way. I've never had the
straight 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Solid pair of decks still. To be fair, I'd still use them.
They're a bit stiffer than the Technic, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like the on it. But yeah, they're the ones I have. I've never ever thought about upgrading. Just a little side note. Last night I was DJing at Shiv's birthday, and I bumped into. Do you know Aspin?
No, I don't think so. No.
I bumped into Aspin. He's a lad who's been he's been on the scene forever. He just seems to be one of them people who's always been around. And I hadn't seen him in about 8 years, and I seen him yesterday. We're having a crack and whatnot. And then we were talking about vinyl and stuff, and then he, I was saying about
I think I do know you mean, actually, yeah.
What's his first name? I don't know. James Aspin.
Yeah, I know it, yeah. Course, yeah.
Big
yeah,
fella.
I know, yeah.
He's a funny fucker. Anyways, so we're having a crack and stuff like that about tunes and that. And then he said, I've just got these spare pair of Technics they've been serviced by Pimp My Decks and all, and he's got them for sale. And do you know when the cogs are turning?
Yeah.
And ever since I've been thinking, and it's the only time I've ever thought about upgrading them, because I've had these Stanton ones for forever. They were like, well, they're only the second pair of turntables. The first pair I had were they were fucking terrible. They were like Newmark belt drive ones, but like
the black battle pack ones.
Is that what I don't know what they were called.
I think everyone had a pair of them at one point, to be honest with
you. They were grim though. Like I was just thinking to myself, I can't DJ here. I'm never going to learn this. And it was only later on when I had to go on another set of decks, I was mixing effortlessly.
You notice the difference straight away, don't you?
And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Anyways, I went back, and it turns out that like one of the decks on the belt must have been not connected properly to the spinner underneath. And when it's doing it, it would just slow down randomly. It's like so it'd spin, and like, and maybe when it got 3/4 of the way around, it'd slow down for a thing. And I'm like, so when I was chasing the mix in, I'd always lose it. Like, and I'd be like, I'm a shit DJ. I'm never going to make this. I'm never going to do it.
Mistake. You always over touch it, don't you? You know, you don't need to as well. You throw it off.
Yeah. So it was just one of them things. And then I had to go on these direct drives. I can't remember what they were. I think they were. Was it 1200? It wasn't 1210s. They were 1200s. The smaller deck.
The silver ones.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really.
1200s are the silvers, aren't they? And the 1210s are the black.
Well, there were silver ones then. I'll be honest with you. I've got decks now. I don't even know which ones they are. I know the Pioneer ones, but I don't even know. I don't pay attention to model numbers because there's so many different ones. All I know is what it needs to do for me to be able to use it, and that's what it is.
Lansdowne bloody CDJ 1000s.
Yeah, well,
I don't use them often, but it does what I need to do. Do you know what I mean?
It's one of them things, though. It's like as long as it does the job, I don't care. What is it I've got? I'd say I don't even know what the initials are. Is it RX2? Does that ring a bell? So it's like all in one thing. Yeah. So I can plug my vinyls in on the 2 channels, and I can plug USBs in, and then after me sorted, I don't need anything else. So that's why I always forget the names of decks, because I don't care. It's one of them. So yeah. I remember that I got these and I was thinking, why isn't it working? And I had to go on these Technic 1200s, and I was thinking, I'm fucking class, mate. Like, this is easy. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're just doing away. And it's like, it turns out, I had a faulty deck, so that's why I couldn't. When I was trying to mix, it wasn't. See,
I remember back in the day, like because obviously I had them straight 30s, and obviously not as powerful as Technics. When I first jumped on Technics, I struggled for using Technics for years, mate. Yep. Because I was so used to the lower torque on mine. I remember first pair of going on a pair of Technics, and I really struggled with them.
I still do now. I do. Like, who was it? Whose Technics were we on? It was somebody brought it down to our Van Lonely event. We had this was a few years ago now. It was in GL3 in Whitehaven. And we did it like a vinyl only night, I think. And I was playing away, and you always, because I've sat in my room and mixed on these Stantons for years. you go to put your hand on the like the platter, and you just forget how loose the techniques are. So like it maybe takes 2 or 3 mixes to get into it, and then once you go, and it's like riding a bike.
That's what I mean. A bit when I said before, you know, you tend to overtouch them on techniques when you don't really need to. You know, once it's in, it's in, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But the lower torque ones, you have to always play with it.
Absolutely. So you've got these set of decks. What was your first vinyl?
First vinyl, I didn't even buy it myself. It was I think it was the Paradise and Dreams Force and Styles, but it was like a cover of it on All Around the World.
Oh yeah, I know that one. With the Stevie B mix on. Is that one?
I can't. No, I'm sure. I think it was just like a Ultra Beat remix, and I can't quite remember to be honest.
Oh yeah, Ultra Beat and Stevie B.
What it were, there was a record shop in Berwick called Vibes. It's not there anymore. And obviously my mum just went in and, you know, and said, you know, my son's got these decks, you know, what should I do? And they just give her a pile of bloody records of all sorts in their little tribal house and playing these on Christmas Day.
They've ripped her off her leathers essentially.
What the fuck's these that my mum's got me here?
Was the Force and Stars one, was it a purple sleeve?
Yeah, purple sleeve.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was, so that might have been like, I think it was probably Christmas 2002 then, that, to be honest, thinking about the release on it.
It's not a bad introduction into the thing. That's a tune, that, to be fair.
In fact, it was the Ultra Beat cover of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember there. I couldn't remember which one it was. I'm usually pretty, like... My thing is, because obviously when you get obsessed with what we do and stuff like that, I get obsessive with, like... With releases, release dates, catalogue numbers, what record label it went on, and then if you discover a new artist on a record label, you chase what record labels they've released on, and then you find new artists on that, and it's just one big spiral out of control. Like even now, my missus kicks off to me because when you get deliveries through a couple of times, I still buy vinyl. You see,
yeah, I do as well. Yeah,
and it's like. I'm not even going to ask what it is anymore, what's been delivered, because our I can't even say this. I won't tell you the full story because I'll get robbed. But basically, our postman, obviously, when the 12-inch doesn't go through the door, he's got somewhere he puts it at ours, because he knows that it's my pride and joy, and if it gets wet or anything, it'll warp. Yeah. So he puts it in a very secure area by mine. So when I come home and I look in there, sometimes I look in because obviously. Some people are quite bad with posting, although some people are on the ball and you get it the next day. I'll look in and if there's no vinyl there, so I like to do it a couple of times a week, so I've got something to look forward to.
I mean, I'm pretty obsessive. I mean, I've got a few records there where I've got the same track on 4 or 5 different labels, just for the sake of having it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I try not to do that, but you can't help it.
No, I'm notoriously bad for it.
Yep. So you're getting all these vinyls and you sort of learn the ways. Did it just click one day for you? Or?
Well, so obviously I fully self-taught, you know, about then. Mm-hmm. And what I started doing were listening to the Pay CDs. And I think I was trying to recreate, you know, I was trying to find the records on the CD. Yeah. And basically trying to recreate the CD, do you know what I mean? Trying to figure out how to make it sound that way and stuff like that. And there was a fellow that I used to know called Aidan Johnson. He's a bit older than me. He used to actually babysit for my sister. And he's friends with DJing at the time. So, he kind of like just give me a nudge in the right direction, do you know what I mean? Like, I remember when I first started, you know, obviously you throw it on the first beat. I used to count 4 beats on the record, hold it on the 4th beat, and then count 4 before you drop it in, you know, so I didn't miss it. Yeah. And then I just started playing with it, you know, playing with the platters and stuff like that. And
that's probably the harder way to go around, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
Definitely.
Yeah. I think everyone's got... It is... So for me, the DJing thing, when it clicked, I was mixing 2... of the same tune because I was trying to figure out how it worked. Like I was like, if I can get these two, which I know they're exactly the same speed, in time, I can figure out how the drums are sequenced. Does that make sense? Yeah. In my head, it was like a science project. It was like, right, so if this is like 16 bars of this, and then the bass line.
See, it's like bars and stuff like, you know. I didn't have like years on when I was still DJ. I didn't have a clue about bars or anything like that. You know, I just did it where it sounded right. Do you know what I mean? You know, you get that memory, don't you? You track where to drop it. Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly that. But once you figure that out, it all just seems to make sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And for me, I remember that like this is foolish of me, to be honest with you, but I remember when I first learned. Oh, right. So this is how a track's structured. I thought, I can produce music. This is fucking easy. Do you know what I mean? Like, 'cause I'm like, if they're just sticking kick drums there and percussion there and bass line there, I can do this. It's no problem. And then obviously you learn, fucking hell, yeah, okay.
There's a lot more
yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. But like, because it seemed like a basic type structure, you just think, oh, anyone can do this. So you're DJing and that. When was your first gig? Like, how did you get? Because everyone's got a way they got into the scene. How did you get into the scene?
So I mean, like first I started going up Haslenden where I went to school.
Yeah.
And but by that point there were quite a few people, you know, that had a pair of decks and they would, you know, piss around their bedrooms and stuff like that. So there's one of my old friends, Owen. I went up to his house one day and he had a load of the lads in there, you know, because he had a pair of decks and they're all there struggling to, you know, beat match and stuff like that. And then Owen just turned around and said, "Gibby can do it." And they're like, "You fucking can't. I can't see you be able to do this." And so I walked. I had a mix, beat matched it and mixed it, and everyone was like, "Fucking hell, you can do it." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's when I started thinking, you know, maybe I should start trying to record this. You know, because I at that point I felt like I was getting good enough to maybe record something. This is probably about 2003 now, late 2003. So I recorded a tape then, recorded a 45-minute tape with Swifty, MC.
Yeah. And nice lad, Joe.
Yeah, he's been my best friend for, I think it's like 23 years now, something like that.
Fucking hell. So track that in it.
So anyway, we recorded it, you know, like a lot of the cheeky tracks on it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
the thing of its time, isn't it?
Yeah. There was a record shop that hadn't long been opened in Accrington, DJs only. Obviously, I didn't know the fella who owned it at the time. He was Stempy, but when we used to go in the shop, we seen like posters everywhere, under 18s events and stuff like that. At a place called Eden in Accrington, little nightclub. So we walked in, you know, nervous as anything. And I said, you know, will you take this tape to have a listen to? So anyway, I said, yeah, I'll have a listen. A couple of weeks went by. I think it was about a week. So I rang his shop and I said, you know, did you get a chance to listen to that tape? What tape? Who is it? I was like, my heart sank. Like, so I give it. Oh yeah, listen to it. Yeah, you're on Friday at this under 18s night. You know, I was only 14 at the time. That would have been 2004. It were.
Yeah.
September 2004, the first booking, and me and Joe turned. Aidan, who were older than us, drove us there. We turned up. Me and Joe. Bear in mind, I'd never actually been in a nightclub before this point. I'd never been into anything like that. Just house parties. So we were there waiting outside for the doors to open up for people to turn up, you know, with the decks and stuff like that. So there was a lad there called Adam A. He was one of the residents there, and he come up and said, "You must be Gibby and Joe." I said, "Yeah, we're just waiting for Stempy to come, you know, to set up." Yeah, he's running late. So there's one technic in there, and he had this fucking black thing under his shoulder. I looked at it and said, "What's that?" "Oh, it's a CDJ. I'd never seen one before in my entire life." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I've not got any CDs. It's alright, you mix on the Technic, but again, bear in mind, I'd never been on a pair of Technics either.
Yeah.
So we walked into this club. It was only a small place, like, and Adam set up. Anyway, he just put a tune on, and fucking how loud it was. Me and Joe just looked at each other like, wow. You know,
you used to house parties.
Yeah, honestly, it absolutely blew us away. We were there shouting at each other, not being able to talk. You know, we couldn't understand what we were saying or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I went back to back with Adam, and I was on the Technic, he was on the CDJ, and I'll be honest with you, I fucked it up absolutely royally.
Right. We all start somewhere, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, like I said, I struggled for quite a while when I first started. You know, doing it in clubs, house parties. I went back to my own setup, and you know, generally doing all right. But like, the under 18s nights, you know, there was probably nothing special to listen back.
Well, I find that the moment you move from a club to from your bedroom to the club, it's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah,
do you think so?
definitely.
Like, for instance, you might turn up sometimes. Like, I'm not speaking for everywhere, but you turn up sometimes. You might not even have a monitor in the thing. For me,
I think that's what blew us away. The monitor in that club, it was so loud, it was unbelievable. But bear in mind, we were only kids, 14-year-old. You know, the ears were ringing when we left and stuff like that. It just blew us away at first.
Well, I've noticed, right, this is the thing. Do you know when you see there's a few veterans on the scene, and I don't mind, they won't mind me saying that, I've went on after a couple of people who've been around for a long time, and they've got the volume at about 3 o'clock on the volume thing. Their ears must be absolutely fucking hammered. To 3 o'clock's like what? It's at like 80% roughly on your thing. So you're about 80% volume. Shouldn't need to be that loud for your ears.
See, I stopped using monitors quite a few years ago, mate, because I get tinnitus in me right ear. It ring, you know, if it's quiet sometimes now, it just rings out. Do you know what I mean? So when I do sets live now, I'll literally just keep my headphones on and the mix in the mixer, which I've done for years now. To be fair.
I'm a bit of both because I like to hear response as well. So it's, for me, if there's no monitor at all, I have to leave the earphones on because you just can't trust the reverb in the room. So it's because like there'll been times when I've been DJing and it sounded fucking shit because I've relied on the delay in the room to try and mix. But yeah, in earphones is probably best. So how did you find that you've went into these clubs? And it's much bigger than maybe anticipated, like a louder and like how long did it take to adapt to it?
It probably took me about a year, maybe. I think. I mean, I played that under-18s every Friday. It was.
Was there anyone on with you that was in the scene now?
I think at that point we had Scotty G on that had come down a couple of times for National Anthems MC.
Yeah.
Not DJing wise, no. It was just me, Stempy Adam. And there was a fella called Carlo as well. Who used to remember Ace Records. Naughty Boys Feel Love and stuff like that. So he was the record owner for that. He used to come down and DJ as well.
He's from around this area, isn't he?
He's from Ramsbottom.
Yeah, I thought so. I remember there was a couple of tunes back in the day that I was trying to get hold of. I'm sure he's got a Discogs account or something, and I've got onto him at some point.
I don't think he's involved at all anymore. I don't think he has been for a while.
Yeah.
But then I think what started buzzing off a lot more was the fact, all my friends used to start coming to this on a Friday night, from school, all the girls from school coming to watch me DJ. I was like, buzzing, this is this is what it's going to be about, you know what I mean? And then I think it got to late 2004, early 2005, that's when Stempy said, you can do an over 18s night now if you want. I was only 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who was on that night, to be honest with you. I think it was just the residents. We might have had Scott on or something like that, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But that was a scary experience for me as well. I was 14-year-old. I was in Accrington at the time, and nights out were rough, do you know what I mean?
I haven't played Accrington in 10 years now.
I think I was there that night when you played in Accrington at the bridge, to be honest with you. I remember it.
Which night was it? I played there a few times.
I can't remember which one it were. You were there.
Was it the kick-off night?
I think so, yeah.
Right. That put me off Accrington for a long time. All I remember is I went down with Matt C and I can't remember who else. Was it Stu C as well?
Yeah, I was there that night.
Yeah, and I went and I was thinking, it's all right. It's not a bad night. There was a few in and stuff like that, and then there was a lot of travellers came in, and
that's Accrington.
Yeah, and they were just looking to start straight off the bat, like you could see. And then all I remember, it was only 10 years ago. I shouldn't be able to remember the full story, but I can't remember the full story. It was a bit wild. It all happened all at once. All I remember is just a bar still come right past my head, and then somebody got through a window as well, if I remember rightly. And it turned into a mass brawl, and everyone was jumping on top of each other, and it was like...
Yeah, I backdoor booed it in a taxi, mate, straight out there. As soon as I see something like that, I'm out, mate.
Well, I remember just standing behind the decks like, what the fuck? And the bouncer's going, turn that fucking music off! Turn it off now! And I'm like, okay. Put the volume down, and it was like... I just remember that just everyone was just like, what the fuck's going on? And then, I think it shut down after that. If I'm not mistaken.
It wasn't so long after that. It was the bridge, weren't it? I think it was.
Yeah, the bridge, yeah. It wasn't a bad little place, but as I say, it was just... It was a bit rough, do you know what I mean? But yeah, Accrington, great place.
Yeah, well, that's where I spent most of my first years DJing, to be honest with you. There was Eden that I did, and then when Eden shut down, probably for the same reasons, we moved to a place called Lardy Daz. I mean, everyone around here remembers Lardy's,
Did Night M used to do that?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It weren't zone nights, but they used to have, I think they had a few of the peer DJs on there occasionally, so they used to have a main room, I think it was like an 800 capacity room or something like that, and then they had a little side room as well.
Right.
So most normal weeks, the main room had your chart music and stuff like that, and then the side room at side used to have bounce music. But I first started doing that. It was Teen Heaven. It was called under 18s there, and that was in the main room. And that's when I first started getting properly into, getting to grips with DJing live in front of people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was for about 2 or 3 years, I think, maybe 2 years.
Right.
And then after that, in Accrington, we moved to Bailey's. This was a lot later on. This is like 2008, 2009.
I can remember Bailey's. So
Kinetic Nights, they were.
Yeah.
That's when that's when I first started, seeing some of the main names in the scene. Do you know what I mean? At that point, you're getting bits starstruck. Like, fuck, that's Ben T. Do you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah. So who was your first? I know it sounds stupid, but who was your first friend within the scene? Obviously, you've got Swifty, and that who's your friend pre all this.
It would be Stempy.
Right,
Definitely.
Stempy,
I learnt a lot from him back in the day. I used to go to his shop every Saturday religiously. Even not to buy, just go and chill out.
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time at school, we used to walk her to work on Saturday morning, and then jump on the bus from Azzy to Accrington and go and chill in his shop all day.
Yeah, but it's the best way to be, isn't it? I wish it was still a thing now because
some of best days of my life. Some of them, to be fair, just
even though there was nothing to it, it's just it's
you
just
look back at
fondly,
it,
isn't it?
yeah.
Looking back fondly. So you're starting to get DJing and stuff like that. What came next for you? Was it a big moment for you where it sort of?
I think locally where I started making more of a name for myself. I mean, in Rosendale was the Night Amenity, which everyone listened to the CDs and stuff like that around here. And
I was going to ask you about it. Sorry, but I've know you've been linked to it because I've seen you in the past and that. But were you an original? Were you?
No, I weren't an original resident. No. So I mean, when it were at its peak, like 2006 at the Cube, it turned out that at our school, it was a year above us, a lad that knew like AD Race and stuff like that, and we got talking, and so AD put this night on the Amenity Up and Comers in 2006 at the Cube.
Yeah.
And me and Leash Owen got put on because we were getting known around locally as a back-to-back kind of set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He put us on that, and he put us on the main hour there as well. I think we DJed at a place in Accrington called Upsy Bar for someone's birthday, and a few of the Amenity lads were there, and they heard me and Owen playing. And Eddie, I think Eddie obviously liked what he heard. But I think we played a lot different to what the Amenity lot played, because they all played pretty hard, do you know what I mean? Hard and fast, whereas me and Owen were playing stuff like just normal bounce, do you know what I mean? A decent, steady BPM, stuff like cruising and stuff like that at the time.
Yeah.
So they put us on the main hour there, and the CD obviously at the time went online as well, and that's when everyone started, getting to know who we were really locally.
Yeah. So then, so you've done the Up and Comers night, and then you've been asked to do the.
I had a little bit of a gap from not playing for him. I think it was 2008. The Cube had shut down.
Yeah.
And they'd moved to a place called Venue in Tomberton. It were, and at that time I worked with one of the DJs, Sammy Love.
Yeah.
So he said around and said, you want to come start playing for us down there? We'll make you a resident. So I started playing down there for again probably about 18 months to 2 years or something like that.
It's not a bad brand to be associated with, is it?
No, really? it's one that we always looked up to. It was definitely one that I ticked off the list. That at that point when I was a teenager, what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And I got there eventually. You know what I mean?
Do you not think that it's weird how your goals change and progress? I know it's just natural, but I remember when I was younger, I was like, I'd love to play in a nightclub. And then you play in a nightclub, it's like, I'd love to play for this night. And then it goes on and on and on. And it's like, now it's like, I love producing music. I'd love to produce with this person, or I'd love to release on this label. And it's like, once you achieve it, it's right on to the next. So you're never ever fulfilled as a creative.
Satisfied, are you?
No, never ever. It's one of them things where you can get a massive achievement, but as a creative, you always look forward, not back. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's only when you sit down and reflect on what you've done in the past that you realise, shit, we've done a bit here. Do you know what I mean? That it's come a long way since.
It's like the DJing side of it. I mean, I've always considered myself. I've never been a big name or anything like that, and I've never even really quite made it. Do you know what I mean? I've always kind of like been there. Do you know what I mean? But everything that I set out to do as a teenager, I kind of did. Do you know what I mean?
So the way I say it is, if you went and told your 14-year-old self of the stuff you've achieved and done in that time, you'd be like,
oh, you'd have been blown away. Do you know? Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. As I say, you just progress as an artist, don't you? That's what it is. So you've started playing for Amenity and that, and you've down at the venue, and then what's next for you?
That was like a bit of I think that was like when the quiet time, the scene after that 2009. That's when it started going on the decline a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
If you remember. So I think I took a year out. I didn't really DJ at all, to be honest with you. I didn't bother going on my decks or anything like that. And I think I started again maybe 2011, late on 2011. I had a bit of time, lads orders and stuff like that. And that's when I started trying to DJ. But then, obviously at this point, I'd already started trying to produce and stuff like that as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's where production again started taking over a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really pushing for bookings at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it got to 2011. That's when the bridge started at Accrington.
Right.
And it was like my first booking back, for years. And bear in mind at that point I'd been playing at Amenity in Kinetic previously, where they drew quite big crowds and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got this booking for a launch night at the bridge. Can't remember, a lad called Tom. I can't remember his name. And I got myself probably geared up for it and stuff like that. I thought, yeah, I'll get back to it and stuff now. And turned up and the night was absolutely shite.
Yeah.
And it just knocked me a little bit. I thought, this isn't what I remember, kind of thing.
Well, I think everyone's played to an empty room, even the best in the business, so I wouldn't worry about it at all. It's just one of them. Sometimes you get a good night, sometimes you don't. That's what it is. I've played to less than the bar staff. Like in some cases, I remember turning up to a gig, and I was playing. I think so. Peak hour was like midnight, and I was on 11 till 12. So just before headline set, and I remember that it was that day. The bar staff woman went downstairs to the bar below, so there was nobody in the club at all. Just me. I was playing myself.
I mean, I've played to empty clubs and stuff like that before. I mean, a lot of the early years, I just played warm up anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I spent years for Stempy, like time to time, and that playing warm up sets for free. For years. Do you know what I mean? And then it wasn't. I think like when I started playing at Amenity, that's when I started getting some later sets. Do you know what I mean? Like peak time sets and stuff like that.
That's the thing. It's like you've got to learn the craft, haven't you? Like I played for free for years, and it was just so I had that experience in a club. I could get used to adjust the sound system, and you could also get used to like the interact. Like fair enough, you could be the best DJ in the world in your bedroom, but if you can't read the crowd,
well, that's what. Yeah, I was just gonna say. That's the art of warm up, innit? That's why I'm glad that I spent years doing warm up, because you definitely teaches what if you can make like 10 or 15 people first coming into a club start dancing, and keep them there, and then get when people coming in, you've nailed it, really, haven't you? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So yeah, you're playing for this start up night. Can you remember what it's called? No.
No, I can't off the top of it. It was a fancy dress thing that they had going. No one turned up in fancy dress either.
So the ones who never turned up anyways, it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was called, to be honest. I think a lot of you remember Infected Digital, I think a lot of them lads were there as well. I'm seeing stuff like that. I can't remember what the bounce night was called, to be honest with you. I've not got the flyer anymore either.
Right, so you sort of moving on again. You're starting to sort of get a few gigs and
I started putting more regular mixes out, online and stuff like that. So I started getting a couple more bookings. I played in 2012. I played Sopranos as well. I played I think it was Summer Spectacular 3 or 2 or 3. I can't remember what that were. That was with Anton and Johnny B.
Yeah, I rate Johnny B. I like Johnny B.
Yeah.
Anton was a good DJ as well, to be fair. I think they both had their own styles and that as well.
Anton definitely had his own unique style. We used to disagree on tunes all the time.
That's right. I was going to say that. I remember. It was in Fids one night, and I was talking to him, and he doesn't differ away from what he liked. He knew what he liked.
Very much what he wanted to do. He did.
So you're DJing for these nights, and you're getting there. And you're still doing the production at the side as well.
Yeah, I was trying to get a lot better at that at the time. I mean, in 2009, I actually went to college in Accrington for just did a music BTEC.
Yeah.
So that's where he started proper trying to take over. He did start taking over my DJing side a whole lot more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I found the frustrating thing was at that time when I was trying to mix my own tracks next to other people's better producers, and it sounded shit, and it was
frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, very frustrating.
So then, when would you say was your first big booking where you were like, I'm proud to be here? Right now?
I got booked for Bound 7. It was, and that was at Warehouse 1 in Blackburn. And it was at that time, even though my tunes were crap, I'd set up my own little record label on Bound 7. It was Lockdown Records, and I got a booking on the flyer as Gibby Lockdown Records, and that was the first one that I was, I thought, I'm pretty proud, because obviously that was a brand that I always wanted to play for as well.
It's a great brand, mate. Like I've said this in previous podcasts as well, when I've talked to people, and whatnot, and like, when I got into it, I was like looking online for what nights to go to, and like, what do I want to go? And I remember seeing the Bounce Heaven events, and I was just like, they put on a show. So you see them events at 53 Degrees and stuff? They put on a show. It's like, it's a profession. Like, you've got your DJs on with a selected MC. It's not just like fucking swap and drop MCs.
Yeah,
it was nice.
It's all organised.
It was organised, and then you got to see producers showcased as well. Like, you obviously had.
I think back then, Bounce 7 was the first one of its, to try and work it that way within Bounce. If I remember right, because obviously all the National Anthem CDs used to be just like a rotation. Whoever was there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But as I say, like, this was like. This is a bit of me. This is what it's about. Like, so yeah, I fondly look back at them sort of. I still listen to the CD packs now, to be honest with you, but just as a little bit of a nostalgia thing. So I used to get ripped off fucking AJ, right? Like, everyone else used to sell the CD packs, but his was more expensive. But because I wanted to listen to Outsource, I wanted to listen to Bad Behaviour sets where it was just like
Outsource would go back in.
Or Fitzy and Rossi B, or. Like, do you know what I mean? Or Total Control. Like, I wanted to listen to a set that's dedicated to them, where I know it's going to be good audio and that. So, as well as buying like the Sanctuary CDs and stuff like that, I remember buying Sanctuary CDs, and it was like, I can't remember the price. Just say it was a tenner. AJ would sell the CD packs at 20 quid a pack, and I'm just like, I could get 2 Sanctuary CD packs, or I could get 1 Bounce Heaven, and it's just like. Yeah, it's a bit more expensive.
I think at that point as well, I had quite a few things going at that point, because I used to have a residency in a place called Cooler in Bury, which was another local night that was over that way called Reloaded. So it was only a small thing, but they used to play for a place called Maxwell's in Bury as well.
Yeah, I think I might have heard of that one.
Yeah, they used to do that back in the day. And that's when I entered the deviation competition for Sanctuary at that point, I think about 2012.
Were you on the same year as me?
2012 I did it, I think it was. 2011, 2012. 2012 it was. I was on with Anton.
I can't remember.
There was me, Anton, I think Johnny Baker was on. I'm trying to think who else might have been on, like Ryder and Lewis P and stuff like that.
Right, mine may have been the year after, but some of them names were on the year after as well, actually. Mine was like Philbin and...
I think you might have been year after
then, yeah.
So, I mean, I did that, and then I was on holiday in Forteventura with my son and my missus, and I got a message I was actually going onto the computer on the holiday thing, checking if I had anything back, and I got put on again in a room 2 for deviation. It was a Sanctuary winter, like a winter warmer, I think it were. Yeah. But they closed the second room, so they chose a couple of us to play the main room, and I got chosen to play that main room. So that was like the first main room like Sanctuary event that I played for.
Not bad. Well, didn't you play the warm up? Was it?
I think I was on second or third.
Right. So you were like, what type of stuff were you playing?
I played classics, to be honest. I started with bloody Head Check.
Because obviously, if you get that opportunity, you want to seize it, don't you?
Yeah.
Like
I played a couple more times for Sanctuary. After that, I played. I think it was one of the birthday events that was in Wigan. They had Stunt on as a PA.
Yeah. Was that 14th birthday?
14th birthday, I think it was. Yeah, like a red flyer, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And then I played with Swifty as well. The New Year's Eve, it was 2013 to 14. That was at Buzz nightclub. That was a messy night.
So if I remember rightly, around this time, I'm just assuming now, I'm sorry, but you did Fantasy Island.
Yeah, that's right, Fantasy Island, yeah.
I remember seeing that and thinking, ooh, that's different. Like,
yeah, it was a bit of a surprise booking, to be honest. To be honest with you, I actually fully remember how it came about, how I got approached for it. I can't remember if John messaged me on Facebook or whatever it were. But there was a few of us, like Benji Wright was on, and, but again, that was supposed to be I think I was supposed to be the Friday, because it was obviously it's a weekender. I think it was supposed to be the Friday, but they cancelled the Friday. So a lot of the lads got let down and said, you know, don't go. But then a few of us still went, and we played the main event on the Saturday, which was Frequency versus Monte Musica.
Yeah.
That was a bit of an eye opener, to be honest.
Was that the first experience of Machina?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different vibe, isn't it?
It's not for me.
No, I'll be honest with you. I like a lot of it. I do. It's a lot, and this is why I don't understand why people don't like it. It's because if you listen to it, a lot of them just sound like bounce tunes, right?
Yeah.
And then if you listen to they've got a thing. I think it's called Rider or something like that. It's like a Spanish thing, and it's literally just Porky, but at that speed.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, how can people not like it? If you like Porky, and you should like that. If you like bounce music, you should like some of the because there's some really euphoric Machina tunes, like. Well, I think so, anyways. But maybe because in my area we were brought up, like the three things we were all brought up on. It was bounce, Italian, and Machina. That was what it was.
Yeah, Italian's big around here as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that was, that was probably one of my favourite bookings that I'd done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, me and Benji went back to back, and we had to play a bounce at I think it was 158 BPM because we'd followed a Machina set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Benji would have been in his element. He likes that type of thing. Yeah.
I would tear him the hair out because I usually play about 150 or something.
I never ever play past 150. And I've made a point of it. And years ago, I remember turning up to an event in Bolton. I was playing for, and who was on before me? I can't even remember. Maybe Joe Taylor, I think.
Yeah, Joe Taylor.
And he was playing at 155. And I was going back to back with John Reflex, Jamie Cousins. I was back to back with him. And I remember going on, and I said to Jamie, I said, "Listen, mate," I said, "I'm not playing at 155." And from then, that was the last. He was like, "Well, we'll have to keep the pace up." So I think we knocked it down a little tiny bit, but I think that was the last time I made the conscious decision of I said, from now on, whoever's on it, they're just going to have to deal with me slowing down. They'll get used to it after a couple of tunes. Because I just think it doesn't need to be that, for me personally, it doesn't need to be that fast. And if I'm playing at a speed where I don't enjoy it, and it's not I don't want to be there.
Yeah, so I tend to pick the pace up a little. So usually if I start a set, depending on what time it is and who's been playing before me, or sometimes I'll start at 148, something like that, and then as the set goes on, I'll pace it up towards the end of it. Do you know what I mean? Pick it up a bit.
Sure. But if you're coming on at fucking 3-4 in the morning and it's 155, you can't pace that up anymore. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So last night, for instance, I started at 144 because I was on first warm up, and I was playing some old sort of played DJ Quicksilver. Played some old Dutch stuff.
Nice warm up stuff.
Yeah, and then I just sort of seeing how the room was going. They like the sort of pumping stuff, so I moved forward and started playing them, and then to the euphoric trancey stuff, and then I was just pitching it up. I think I finished up. I give it to Heads Up after me at 148. But even still, I knew that they wanted it a little bit faster, so I just kept pitching it up because. For me personally, for a first hour I'd have finished at 146. That's just my. If I was doing the whole night, that's what I'd have done, and then I'd have peaked at the end of the night at 150, and then I just won't exceed it. That's just maybe me being stubborn.
No, I mean, if I do I'd probably start at 145 or something for a first warm up set. Me personally,
if I had my own choice, mate, I'd be starting at 138. See, for me now, if I knew I could get away with it, right, and obviously I've spotted your Fractal album there, I'd play loads of untidy stuff at the beginning of the night. If I knew people would react, the bounce heads would react to it, I'd play 132, 132, and then I'd build it up and up and up and up, because there's nothing worse, right? I've been in a club at 9 at night, and it's been at 150 straight away, and me as a DJ, I've been in the club for waiting to go on, so 3 or 4 hours or whatever, and I'm just this hasn't progressed anywhere, and I'm starting to get a bit bored of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you start off slower, you can play a different selection of tunes and then move forward.
I think that's why I I got more into hard house again because there's a lot more elements that go into there's a lot of different styles in there. Do you know what I mean? Obviously with bounce you've got your energy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all pretty much the same structure as well, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas hard house, there is a big. It's a range, isn't it?
There is a range, yeah. Because obviously you got your hard trance move up as well, and stuff like that.
As I say, you've got your NRG like type hard house as well, where it's Blair and Hoovers. That's not really for me, that type of stuff. It's like 155 as well. Like you see some people playing it and producing it, and then you've got like your funky hard house, like you sort of, I would call it your Digital Mafia style stuff, and then you've got your untidy stuff that's a bit slower and it's chunky and it's got all the elements are dead like crisp and clear. I know that some of them are quite gritty and saturated, but they're always dead clear in the mix. And then, as I say, that the range, there's so much to play with. Like if I didn't feel like doing a bounce tune one day, like you're quite restricted in what you can do if you're trying to be productive with your sets. Whereas if you're in hard house, you'd be like, oh, I don't fancy doing it.
I mean, a lot of my tracks that I do now, my hard house stuff, it's a
variation,
different range. I mean, some of them are like there's one that I think it's like 136 or something like that. It's a bit more techno influenced.
I have noticed it, mate. I have noticed. So we'll get onto that if that's all right. Because obviously you were talking about DJ sets and that. We'll get onto your production. So you were producing bounce tunes. I think when I first heard of you were doing maybe like Odd Bit with Fred. You were doing stuff under that reactive
DJs. Yeah. That's what I was trying to do. Like the bumping stuff that was in at the time.
Yeah.
I think because I was never really a massive fan of it. I think that's a point. I was trying to do what I thought people wanted to listen to, which obviously for me, when I look back, was probably a mistake. Do you know what I mean?
People pleasing.
People pleasing. My art wasn't really in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I started doing a few bits with Fred because originally I used to produce on Reason.
Right.
And obviously everyone else was using FL Studio, so I couldn't collaborate with anyone. It would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
So it was Fred that got me onto FL Studio. Really, I showed him the ropes with it. Really.
Yeah.
I learned quite a bit, just looking at some projects and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when you've been producing and stuff like that, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I remember, like, did you take like a little break in between, like maybe 2016 or something? Like, I remember not hearing your stuff for a while, and then I all of a sudden heard it, and it was like the production was just.
My daughter was born in 2015, February 2015. Right. So yeah, I took about a year off doing. I did little bits at home and stuff, but I didn't play anything out. Obviously family time and stuff like that.
See, I do pay attention to what everyone's doing. No, but it's one of them things that when you came back, your production was like much better as well. Like, I remember hearing one of your tunes and I was like, that kick drum sounds heavy. Like that's like nice and like not so much hard, but it was like. It was hitting in the right place.
I just put a bit more time into learning rather than just making. I think prior to that I was just chucking tunes out left, right, and centre. I was doing like 3 or 4 tunes a week. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just chucking them out there. I think it was for the sake of getting them out there because I wanted to be there still. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I took that year out, spent obviously family time, and then just learning as well. Just watching various things online and stuff, just experimenting.
So you're sort of like you're learning that you're refining your craft sort of thing, and so from 2016 till 2020 you were just doing the bounce bits,
just bounce and stuff. Yeah, I was obviously doing a few bits with Fred. I think 2019 I started doing bits with JJ, for Relay Records. Yeah. Stuff like that, just like remixes. We did a lot of cover remixes and stuff. Like, I think tried to loosely base on like all around the world kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Cover remixes and stuff like that. I had a couple of decent sellers on there, to be fair. Yeah, you did. Was it Rhythm of the Night? Yeah, I think that's my most like downloaded and played track. To be honest with you. You did the Eyeball Paul tune, didn't you? Yeah. You did. Let me think. Did you do Silverwater as well? I did Silverwater as well. Yeah. I did Promised Land with that was me, JJ and Carrick. We did that together. Yeah. So then, when the pandemic's hit, what? Obviously, we've talked off pod, but we'll talk about it now. So what's happened with why would you just like went and started doing the hard house stuff? I mean, you took to it like a duck in water, but what I mean is, what was the? When lockdown first hit, I I started like I think it was like nostalgia feeling to it. To be honest with you, I started making a lot of bounce stuff that was slower, but it was more like early 2000s bounce. You know what I mean? Very little vocals, you know, little raps and stuff like that, little riffs. And then I purposely tried to make them sound old, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, like the way I mixed them and
Well, can you remember when you done Feel the Rhythm for me?
Yeah.
And then
that's around the time actually.
Yeah, well you messaged me saying, listen, there isn't much processing on this. I want it to sound raw purposely so it sounds older. It's like, that's fair enough, mate. I like the vibe you went for because it sounded very much like the late 90s stuff that I like, so you sort of nailed it. But yeah, go on, carry on, mate. Sorry,
so then I started listening to hard house at home again, going through vinyls and stuff like that. And I thought, I've always wanted to give it a go, really. I was getting a little bit bored of making bounce.
Yeah.
So I just started trying to... I mean, at first, the first ones, they sounded like bounce tracks, just with the hard house elements in. If you like my first EP on Cheeky Tracks, they're very much like the offbeat basses, they're at 150 BPM. Yeah. The riffs are very, bounce oriented. There's a couple of like old 90s rave stabs in there for a bit of a rhythm, right? But
yeah. So you made the conscious effort of like, I'm just gonna make it for myself rather than
because at that point, I mean, it's still to the point now. Really, I wasn't purposely listening to any new hard house or anything like that. I wanted to literally make it how I wanted it to sound and what I enjoyed listening to. This is where I made the conscious effort to make sure I'm not doing it now to please people. I'm literally making what I want to make and what I think sounds good and how I want it to sound.
Yeah. So did you have a re-fall in love with production after that?
Yeah, massively.
I can imagine.
Yeah, massively.
I'm just going off how I've had these moments as well where I've I want to try and focus on this and it makes you fall in love with it all over again because you're just pleasing yourself, and then if anybody else likes it, it's a bonus, and if anyone else wants to sign the record, that's even a bonus as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are you doing? So right throughout lockdown, I seen you do bits and bobs with this style, but right now, what's your focus and your aims on?
Just to make, I want to try and get myself a little album going for Spotify. To be honest with you, have my own stuff. I want to get an album's worth of stuff together and hopefully put it out.
I thought you did that,
Yeah, I had planned to do it, but I ended up just putting it on SoundCloud for the time being because I wanted to spend a bit more time on it. But I think I kind of rushed it a little bit, to be honest with you. Now that I look back.
Yeah.
So my aim for this year is I'm not going to be releasing as much for the first half of the year at least because I want to get, like I was saying earlier, a catalogue of tunes going. Not release them, not even put them out there really, but then just hopefully try and get this, like a 12-track album or something like that.
Yeah. The thing is, right, there's the thing with the argument between album and singles and how people perceive it. Like, people can listen to an album and then it's just forgot about, but if you've released an album, it's a body of work, isn't it? At that moment in time. I've always preferred albums, but I know singles seem to do better in today's day and age with streaming and people are. What is it? 30-second engagement, and then that's it. They've gone. It's rubbish. It's the way of the world at the minute. But I love albums. I love listening to I don't know, say BK's Heartbeat, for instance. Like you listen to that, and it's like one body of work, and it's like that's where his head was in that space at that time. Or listening to a Sum 41 album, you listen to it, and it's like. That's their peak era, and then they release a new album. Oh, it's not as good as the last one. Or the recent new album, it's like, oh, this is better than the last one. It's like it leaves it in anticipation, and there's a lack of it within our scene. I think, anyways. It's like people bringing albums out, and it's like appreciate that time. And
but there's a lot of time. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like if you release an album now, imagine the difference between 2019 Gibby and 2023 Gibby. Well,
I mean, because I'm trying to get a bit of a track list for it going together. So I had to look through some of my older tracks, and then I played them next to some of my new ones. I thought, I can't put that on there. So I've revisited a lot of old projects as well. I've remastered them, or tidied them up a little bit, added a few things, taken a few things out that I weren't too, purely just for release on an album. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, are you looking to do any hard house gigs or like that?
Not particularly, no. If I'm absolutely honest, if I get a couple of gigs, I'd enjoy it. I don't actively go out looking for DJ bookings anymore.
Oh no, not look for them, but I mean, would you be thrilled in the idea of turning up to somewhere and getting to play all your hard house stuff.
Yeah. But that's so that's what I want to do if I do DJ. I want to try and go and play my own stuff.
Yeah.
I spent years trying to playing other people's stuff. I want to just solely focus on what I want to do now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because we're in a thing, right? And it's a decent discussion point actually. Do you know when you see people within the scene and it's like, I've seen this argument so many times. It's like there's no more headliners in our scene. And I'm like, it's like, other than the obvious 4 or 5, there is. So you'd have your Ultra Beats, your Andy Whippies, do you know what I mean? The ones, them ones. But like artists, there should be artists doing albums, and it's like, because people would come to, like, I know for a fact, you've got your little following. The maybe 4 or 5 people would travel to see you do a Gibby set, where they know for a fact you're just going to play your own stuff, and it's going to be like, I've come to a club to hear specifically his style of stuff, like you would go and see like a pop punk band. Like if you've seen fucking Blink-182, they're going to be doing some like a tour. You're going to hear their stuff, and you're going to hear them do covers of everyone else's stuff. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. So what I think what I enjoy about doing hard house now, producing, is that I'm very, very new to the scene. There's not probably a lot of people that don't know who I am. I don't know a lot of people in there, which is where I'm solely just focusing on, basically just sort of focusing on the music now rather than the politics of things. And
the thing is, like, I think if I could come back and do it all again and approach it, I sometimes think to myself, I'd love to do this nameless. Do you know? Does that make sense? Like, I'd love to just be put out and judged on the quality of my work rather than who I am as a person. Because let's face it, right? There's people out there who will see your name on a track and be like, oh, I'm not even going to listen to it, right? Or at the same time, when the other extreme is they'll share it, amazing tune, and they haven't even listened to it yet, but just because they know who you are. I've got no shame in saying this as well. I know there's people out there who would share my stuff and be like, Brad's new tune, it's amazing. And I know for a fact they haven't even listened to the full track. They've just like, because it's me and they just want to support me, which I appreciate, they'll do that. And then, as I said, the other extreme is they wouldn't even give it 30 seconds because I listened to a tune he did back in 2012 and it was shit, so why should I listen to this one? That's the way it is. But I would love to just come in as a nameless person and put something out and someone go, who's this fucking new fella? He's extremely shit. Like do you know what I mean? Or he's extremely good. Well, like,
I like to think I've not done too bad so far in hard house. I get quite a few people sharing my stuff, and I think I had Amber D played a couple of mine on the radio show she was doing in Leeds.
Yeah, that's good.
Which was at the point I think that was end of lockdown. She played. I did a cover of My Head Is a Jungle for Cheeky Tracks.
Yeah,
she played that, which was.
I like that tune. I like that tune. It's nice and pumping that. What I was going to ask you is, so like, see when you're doing this and you're catering for yourself and stuff like that, are you hearing, because you're, if you don't mind me saying, you're more of a stay-at-home producer now, aren't you? Really. Are you getting feedback from DJs who's playing your music when you send it out?
I have done a few times. I mean, I've had a few videos sent to me from like the Tidy Weekender and stuff like that. I have a couple of my tracks being played. Some of the outdoor tents and arenas and stuff like that. So for me, that's decent feedback. Yeah.
And we talked off pod as well, and I said I'd love not to be a DJ. I love the interaction as DJ, and it's something that you chase, and it's like a drug almost. It's like, I remember in lockdown, and I hadn't DJ'd out somewhere in a while, and I was like, it's like you're chasing crack. Like, it's like, I need that fix. But I'd happily not DJ if I was seeing how the crowd reacting to my tunes. So if I sent it to a DJ and they were just like, oh yeah, this is from Thing today, I'd be like, right, I'm satisfied, I've got my little fix, knowing that I'd love to just be locked in my little room where I can produce tunes, be introverted as fuck, not talk to anybody. I mean, I do a podcast and I talk to loads of people, but that's beside the point. It's more the idea of getting all the time to focus your energy into producing and then put it out there as.
I think it's just when you concentrate on doing your own thing, there's no, obviously when you're trying to chase it, there's no pressure. I don't feel like there's a pressure where I need to think, fuck, I've got to make a tune today. Mm-hmm. I don't have a set day where I'll do it. Some days I won't come in here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I just get if I think, I've got an idea into my head today, and I'll come and spend the day in here. Do you know what I mean?
You've got no restrictions either,
No.
because you're not catering towards somebody or certain sound. You're catering to what you feel like doing that day. Maybe it's like sometimes I come into my studio and I'll just listen to music and I'll be like, I fancy doing this today, and I'll start writing something, and then the next day I don't feel like that anymore, and then I'll come back to it a week later and go back to it and do it. That's just the way it is, isn't it? It's like it should be like that. You shouldn't be right, who's big at the minute, right, we'll copy that sound and then we'll replicate that, and then we'll try and get big as well.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I stopped actively doing producing bounce music as much, because I found that I was trying to recreate sound too much, you know what I mean, what I thought was going to work, you know, of what people are already doing, and I didn't like the idea of it, to be honest with you. As much as that sound would work, you know, at one point some of my tunes started sounding like foot rockers, and that's when I stopped doing it.
Yeah. As I say, you can't help but take influence from people, absolutely. But if you're at a point where you think, oh, people are going to think I'm just and you should make the conscious decision.
Well, I got a comment on one of my SoundCloud tracks. I can't remember which one it were now, and it said "Foot Rocker Mark II," and I thought, right, you know what, fuck this. I've nothing compared to Fred. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to start being labelled as someone who's trying to rip off a sound. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
and one thing that it's a pretty good discussion point actually. So when you're producing tracks and stuff like that, do you not think? I get this with the podcast. I get a lot of lovely, really nice, heartly comments. There's people out there who listen to this every week and they're like, I wait for it coming out and stuff like that. And that it means a lot to me. But do you not think you put when someone puts one negative comment, right, you seem to you focus on it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So there's like a million different comments around here, and then there's one where it's like, oh no. And then
it'll go around in my head for days, stuff like that.
So, like, for instance, we'll just use that Foot Rocker Mark II comment. I bet you sat and it just fucking
that way me a little bit.
Steamed on it, yeah.
Because I wasn't purposely trying to do it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'd worked on a few tunes with him.
Mm. You just pick up things, don't you?
Do you know what I mean?
But as I say, like, so what I was going to do is we'll sort of tie it up today. We've got a really good body of podcast. We're going to do questions, but I mean, fucking, we've got like a good story off you there. Like, I don't want to deviate away from it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought that was really good. So is there anything that you'd like to add on to your productions before we sort of close this up today?
Just cheers for everyone who listens to my music, really.
But like, as I say, is there anything you can give me that's like sort of exclusive that might that might get people excited? This album, have you got any insight onto the album?
I'm thinking about putting a few samples out over the next few weeks, to be honest with you, some of the stuff I've been working on.
Right, so keep an eye out for that. Where can people find you?
Facebook, they can buy Toolbox Digital for my downloads, my hard house stuff. I've got obviously Club Digital for my band stuff.
Yeah, you're on Spotify as well.
Spotify as well, yeah. I've got a Gibby account and a Danny Gibson one. It's
mental that we're in a day and age where we've got to plug all these different mad shit, like Spotify here and Toolbox Digital here, and it's like
there's my SoundCloud as well.
Yeah, should be like 20 years ago. Just go and buy the CD. I just want to say thank you for coming on, mate. But before we close up, I just want to ask, like I have with everyone, you're going to get the electric chair. You're not that much of a bad guy, to be honest with you, so I don't know what you're getting it for. Maybe mistaken identity or something like that. You're about to get the electric chair and you're having one more meal. What you having? You can have a starter, main, dessert, and a drink. You don't need to have all of it, but that's what's available.
I'm notorious about for takeaways, mate. So my main would be a Baboli's pizza. It's not there anymore. It shut down 2 years ago. If I could have one more of them, I'd have it.
What's it called, sorry?
Baboli's.
And what would you get? What?
Just a cheese and tomato pizza.
It's bland, that, mate. I'm disappointed. Cheese and tomato. Although if it's fucking if
it was there for 25 years. It was good.
Yeah, if it's that good, then go for it. You getting any like sides or out like that to go with it?
Cheesy chips.
Cheesy chips. You're not a veggie or out, are you?
No.
Are you gonna have a drink to wash it down?
Yeah, pint of bitter.
Nice. What bit did you go for?
Piston Brock, it's called. It's a local one.
Local. I was gonna say I can't say I've heard of it. Nice one, mate. Just want to say thanks to everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed the podcast, give Gibby a message and just say, like, if you're interested in his stuff, let him know. Do you know what I mean? If you've heard a tune, you think, fuck, that's a good tune, that. Let him know. It's sometimes I think comments and messages can go a long way. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, like, if you've enjoyed this podcast, then subscribe. Join that 1,020 people who's now on the YouTube. So yeah, share it with your mates. Stick it in your WhatsApp groups as well. If you think you've got mates out there who enjoy this, like the music crack and even a bit of a just light-hearted banter, share it with them and let them know, because it's the only way we get bigger. And as I say, follow Gibby on all his socials, his Spotify, his, as I say, his Toolbox, his SoundCloud. And it's time to refresh for any questions you've got as well, and put the little clips and that out on there. Just want to say thanks for listening. I'll see you later.